Welcome into RedHawk Baseball Weekly. Luke Westfall, the head coach of the Miami RedHawks. Brian Smiley, coach. Another series win for you guys. You go on the road. Another weather-altered series play. Two on Saturday. Split the doubleheader against the Ohio Bobcats. And again, a dramatic Sunday victory for you guys to take the series. A 6-5 win on Sunday. Still have not dropped a series in MAC play. And you guys now enter the week 24-19, 18-6, and the MAC this week's going to look a little bit different for you guys. You're going to head to Xavier tomorrow for a midweek, and that's relatively typical, of course. But you are the team that is taking the break from MAC play this week. You're going to go down south to take on a pretty good Samford team and see another opponent out of the Southern Conference, which you got to know pretty well at the beginning of the year. So, with not a bye week necessarily coming up, but with a non-conference game kind of wedged, a non-conference series, I should say, wedged in the middle of your conference slate. What's this week look like for your team?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty traditional week, honestly, other than the fact is our three-game series doesn't count towards the conference standings. Um, we'll treat it just like a normal conference weekend. The only difference might be if we have a chance to maybe limit some pitch count for maybe Katsky or certainly Byers, who's kind of been extended the last couple weeks. Um, then we'll do that. But other than that, it's pretty much a traditional weekend. We need to win these games. We need to, stay winning. And I don't want to just drop some games for the sake of just because it's a non-conference weekend. We need to keep winning and stay confident.
The next four-game stretch for you guys coming up between the Xavier midweek and the non-conference series against Samford. You've got a Xavier team that's 30th in RPI right now as it stands today, and things, of course, could shift around a little bit before you guys play them tomorrow. Samford currently 89th in the country in RPI. These are some opponents in terms of quality that maybe it's been a little while since you've seen some teams that are this good. When you think back to the non-conference slate, you maybe think to that Kentucky game as well, but kind of having this many games against good teams in the span of a week, what does that do for your team, having kind of been on a roll, like you said?
Yeah, I mean it's good because it prepares you for the stretch run and the conference play in the MAC. So Xavier's a quality opponent. We know we played them in the fall. We've played them this spring. We know what they are. They're good. They're well coached. They're going to be doing everything they can to win this game because it's an RPI game for them. Um, I've been in situations where we're on the other side in those games. Xavier can't lose to us, or else their RPI is going to slide. So they're going to be approaching it very seriously. And, Samford, they're in that RPI range where they're probably not in the at-large discussion, but they're still trying to protect it. So they're a quality opponent in a good mid-major Southern baseball league. So we will use it as preparation for the stretch run here in the MAC.
You're in the middle of a stretch where you're playing 12 out of 13 games on the road. Of course, some of those relatively local, right? You head down to Kentucky, you're going to Xavier tomorrow, but having kind of this long road stretch now in the middle of your conference season, you guys aren't going to come back home until the following weekend against Akron. But do you learn anything about your team, or do you think that you're still kind of in the point in your season where that team bonding aspect of being on the road is important?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, that team bonding, man, the bus is that's where you to come together, man. The more time you can be on that bus, the better, in my opinion. Yeah, we had karaoke day the other day on the bus, and we had probably 15 guys up singing karaoke on the bus the other day. So guys are having a blast. They're coming together, and we still are getting better. There's still a lot of things we have to do to continue to shore up some weaknesses and continue improving. By no means are we a finished product. We still need to continue improving, and I think the way you do that is you have to have a team at this point in the season that wants to keep improving. And in order for them to want to keep improving, they have to want to be out on the field, and they have to want to be at practice. And the only way to do that is to make it enjoyable for them. Um, if the lighter you can keep it on the bus and the more they're around each other, I think the better. So this 12 of 13 on the road, like you referenced, to me is only a good thing. It's only a good thing that guys will start coming together a little bit towards the end here.
You guys were in a little bit of a stretch in April where your pitching was really starting to turn a corner. There were some colder streaks on the offensive side, which is something that we weren't as used to from kind of the early season form of your team. But now you're averaging about 11 runs a game over your last four, going back to the midweek last week against Bellarmine and the weekend series against Ohio. Did you see anything different? I know you mentioned last week hitting the ball at guys a lot, and maybe not necessarily needing much of an approach change. Do you think anything has been different for your guys over the last week offensively, or has it just been a matter of results?
Well, I know last week they worked their butts off with Coach Truin. They changed a couple things up, not necessarily from a approach standpoint or anything, but just change up some drill work just to do something a little bit different. And they worked hard. They worked hard at it, every one of them, and it showed. And I told them that after that series, it was fun to be able to sit back and watch a group of guys that wanted to be better, and they went to work on fixing some things that they needed fixed. We were hitting some balls right at guys, and maybe we got some to fall this weekend, but we hit some balls hard. We hit balls out of the park, which is our game. I've told you before, we're not a small ball type of team. We're a doubles and home runs type of team. When the wind's blowing out or there's no wind at all, we're really, really good. And we got that this weekend a little bit. Get balls in the air and let them carry. And we did that. So hats off to our hitters for their preparation. Hats off to Coach Truin for keeping them on the grind.
This program the last couple of years has been the MAC team that has ended the regular season with that non-conference series, which brings sort of its own challenges when sometimes, they've had to go down south and maybe travel back up on a shortened week before going to the MAC tournament. Now having that southern trip coming kind of wedged in the middle of obviously a really important stretch for you guys where you're fighting for position near the top of the MAC and you want to be in that top two to get those buys as you look towards maybe those last couple weeks of the season. Where is your team at this year, you think, compared to last year? And are you going to manage things maybe any differently over these last couple weeks of the season compared to last season?
No, like you said, it makes it hard because when you have that bye week at the end of the season, like we did last year, and I know they did the year before that, um, it makes it a little easier to rest guys and set up your rotation for the conference tournament. Um, I would actually go as far as saying that having the bye week, the last weekend of the year, is an advantage for teams that have made their conference tournament because they can set up their rotation and rest guys accordingly. This week, you said it. We have to basically sit back and watch kind of how the standings are unfolding because we have one more conference series than Ball State, than Kent State, so we get to sit and watch kind of the standings play out. So to kind of see after this weekend, we'll know kind of what position we really are in. Then we come home and have Akron the following weekend at home for the first time in a few weeks. So for us, I don't know if it's managing it any differently. It's just sitting back and seeing, okay, this is where we sit now, and this is our road moving forward. We know what we have to do. We control our own destiny, or we're trying to hope other teams lose, and we'll have those questions answered after this weekend, most likely.
Miami currently sits third in the Mid-American Conference, game back at Kent State in second, 2 games back of Ball State. But again, some scoreboard watching this week for the RedHawks as they played a few more games than both of those teams. They will not be idle, though. First, the midweek game against Xavier coming up tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. start. Can watch that game online on Aware TV. Link for that on MiamiRedHawks.com. Then a Friday through Sunday set against the Samford Bulldogs in Birmingham, Alabama. Those games can be found on ESPN Plus. 7 o'clock starts on Friday and Saturday, and a 2 o'clock start on Getaway Day on Sunday. Coach, as always, thanks for the time.
Hey, you bet, Luke. Thank you.